Hello and welcome to In the Spotlight with Quocirca, the definitive podcast on digital disruption in the print industry. I'm Louella Fernandez, Director of Quocirca, and today I'm joined by James Masters of LRS. Today we'll be discussing LRS's strategy, the products it offers, and its particular focus on the enterprise market. So welcome to the show, James. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to our conversation because I know you've got some great insight on enterprise requirements in print and output management. And for those not familiar with LRS, could you tell us a bit about yourself, your career history, and a bit more about LRS as a company?
Okay, well, I've been at LRS 30 years as of next April. So, as we discussed during our briefing call, we've kind of followed a very similar career history. We both did computer science many years ago, and I joined LRS after working for another software company in the same space. I worked for them for about 4 years straight out of university, and then I joined LRS as a salesperson initially, selling into the Nordic territory, and then I grew into the EMEA, the European management role, and that was from 1998, and then grown into the EMEA role, and grown into the Asia Pac role. So I am responsible for sales at LRS. As discussed, LRS has been kind of my history and the company's history as well, have gone in parallel with each other, but also in parallel to that has gone the history of output, print, and later on scan management. So and mainly for large enterprises. And the reason why we focused on large enterprises, when the company was formed by three gentlemen, Mr. Levi, Mr. Ray, Mr. Sharp, hence the name LRS. And by the way, Mr. Levi is the sole owner of the company, and he's bringing his family into the company. They wrote a piece of software for a local electricity company to connect a high-speed laser printer, which was across the road from their IBM mainframe. So they wrote a piece of software to do that. And they thought at the time, well, hold on a minute, that piece of software, maybe other companies might need that piece of software. So they then started selling that product to IBM mainframe sites around the world. And they started off with a relationship with IBM initially, where IBM sold that product for them. So hence the reason why they focus on enterprises, because large enterprises, the types of companies that would buy a mainframe print management software product. So that's how we got into the era of enterprise print management. And that was in the late 70s, early 80s. I joined in 93 when they'd been selling their products through a distributor called Software Engineering, when LRS decided to go direct. And for the next probably till the end of the 1990s, we sold our product to a very high percentage of the mainframe sites. I think in the States, they have at least 80% of the mainframe sites. In EMEA and Europe and Asia Pac, they probably have around about 50. So very big, large global organizations run our software. So then LRS grew that. Their customers came back to them, and we kind of worked with our customers in terms of what were the new requirements that came up. And the next requirement that came up, so, okay, we're running most of our big business application on the mainframe, but now we want, say, at a manufacturing company, we're starting to run this product called SAP, or you've got these healthcare companies that are starting to run these products called Cerner and products like that. They're their big back-end business applications that were running mainly in the Unix environment. So they came to us and said, hey, we're running your products in the mainframe. We'd really like to stick with you as an enterprise provider of output, scan, and print management, and we would like a product, say, for our SAP environment. So we wrote a product then to manage their SAP output. So business critical delivery of output to to barcode and label printers in that environment. And then those same customers came back to us and said, we need a Windows solution and we want to use you for that. So we wrote a Windows solution for mainly for direct printing. And then the next question was, we now want a pull print solution because we want a secure solution. So we then, and up until that stage, which was kind of 2010, we'd written all that software stuff. This is the first time we made acquisition for an external product to provide a function that we needed. And that was as the son and the son-in-law came into the organization, was far more aggressive in terms of buying products. Before, Dick Levi was a real technical person, wanted to make sure he wrote everything. But that's when there was a bit of a change in terms of how we started developing our products in the enterprise space. And then the next step was a scanning solution. So we brought a scanning solution. So our company has evolved large global enterprises with lots of offices all over the world as we've grown with our customers. And one of the other things they required, they said, by the way, we also want a serverless solution. So the next step was, well, actually that step came after we provided a Windows solution, which is in the mid 2000s. We need a serverless solution. So then we developed our serverless technology, and it's gone and it's carried on and moved on from there, really.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating history. And I think, you've really explained how that kind of legacy infrastructure from mainframes to where we are today and how LRS has evolved. And, you mentioned there the serverless printing, which we'll come to.
Sure. One of the other things I didn't mention, though, I'll just jump in there, is also because we service global organizations, that means we've needed offices all over the world. Yeah. So we have 4 or 5 offices in the US. In the US, we have offices in most of the big cities in Europe. We have an office in Singapore. We have an office in Sydney, because the companies that we service need that follow the sun service.
You touched there on the fact that you sort of global footprints and locations all over the world. So can you give examples of kind of the type of enterprise customers you're working in, maybe what type of verticals and how they've evolved with LRS in terms of moving from that kind of legacy mainframe environment to a more
the legacy mainframe environment, as I stated before, is global companies, our global companies, and it goes across all verticals. So any global company that has lots of offices around the world with business critical back-end applications would use our software. But specifically, we focus mainly on banking and finance, manufacturing, logistics, and manufacturing could be a very wide definition of manufacturing. It could anybody that makes something, moves it, and sells it, globally. So that could be a pharmaceutical company, that could be a car component manufacturer, that could be a chemical manufacturer, anybody that produces a lot of stuff. But also in the government environment, we're strong in the government environment. So as I said, it goes across all verticals. Anybody that's got lots of offices around the world with back-end business critical applications.
Yeah, and I'm curious because you mentioned, obviously the heritage around enterprise output management. Are you seeing a big change in terms of those global customers, in terms of their output print volumes at that sort of enterprise level, and how that's changed over the course of the pandemic in terms of where we are now?
I think if you look at it from a perspective of printing, those volumes went down in certain verticals. So, for example, banking and finance, people working at home, banking and finance numbers went down. In terms of printing, in the retail space, they went up. Yeah, but also output stayed the same. We're not just about printing. We provide a solution to manage all output in the digital environment and manage it, capture it, transform it, and then deliver it to whichever platform you want to deliver it to. So the pandemic kind of balanced out. Some went down, some went up. Banking and finance went down, retail went up, logistics went up.
Yeah. So in terms of the cloud aspect, so you mentioned you made an acquisition there. So how long ago was that, and what kind of customers are you seeing that are using that and moving towards serverless print environments?
Well, serverless, number one, we wrote our own solution for the serverless, but we did then buy a company that provided serverless solution as well. That was Serato in Sweden. In the cloud environment, I would say in the enterprises we are targeting, it depends what you mean by cloud. For a large enterprise, they are never going to go to a pure SaaS model for output, output management, because they've got back-end business applications that are really, really key to their, to their own livelihood. So in these large enterprises, you have a real mixture. You've got hybrid, so you've got on-prem, off-prem. You do have some SaaS public cloud stuff, but it has to be very limited, because in these large enterprises, because they have such specific requirements and tailored requirements, you can't have a vanilla one size fits all. Yeah, it has to be. You have to have some way of being able to customize it. So the cloud, what we recognized through the pandemic was most of the big enterprises that we were targeting at some stage were going to go to the cloud, which basically meant they're going to probably pass it to somebody else to manage it. And also it means they're going to take their devices off-prem. So they need to find a way to send their back-end business application output to off-prem devices. And that's where we locked down our developments of our products to say, we know our enterprise customers are going to need this because that's what they're telling us and that's what we predicted. So we focus all our developments on providing a solution for the large enterprises moving to the cloud, which basically meant we're probably going to pass it to somebody else to manage, and most of our devices are going to come off-prem.
Okay, so that's interesting. So those large enterprises have moved their output to off-prem in their environments to potentially another provider that's managing their output.
Yeah.
And in terms of what's driven that, because, obviously the pandemic, and we've seen a changing user behavior, the kind of a shift to digitisation and so on. Are you seeing any particular factors that are driving digitisation in your customers, or many of them still heavily reliant on print to support those business critical environments?
The push towards the cloud was obviously driven. It was happening before. 10 years before the pandemic, it was happening, but it was happening slowly. The pandemic really accelerated that process because so many people were working from home effectively. But it's kind of reversing a little bit. These are, and it's for several reasons. One of those is security. They are worried about the security of taking their devices off-prem. And we're seeing that's why we're seeing this massive push towards a hybrid environment. Cybersecurity is a massive topic. We've got an example of one company in Switzerland, which was a pharmaceutical. No, it was actually a chemical product provider. They had a cyber attack. All their SAP output and all their business critical output in all their branches and all their offices around the world relied on Windows Print Service to deliver that output. Those servers had a hybrid cyber attack. You've probably heard of PrintNightmare. Yeah. It's fairly common. And a lot of people, when they think of Windows Print Service, they associate it with Office output. Well, a lot of these back-end applications rely on those Windows Print Servers as well to deliver the output. It wiped out all their business. They could not print a thing, not a single thing. So we worked with a outsourcer. Actually, it was an IT services provider, stroke outsourcer, who said, hey, we've got this problem at this customer in Switzerland. Can you help us? And that's when we went in there and put in our serverless SAP enterprise-wide output management solution. Now, if they get an attack, they don't have an issue with printing. They may have an issue with something else, but not with printing.
Yeah, that's a really interesting example of the impact of PrintNightmare, because I think, like you say, there was this perception that it was more related to the office environment, but the fact that that had such a major impact on the enterprise environment, and the fact, we're seeing the same thing, is that although cloud adoption is accelerating, there are concerns, around security, data privacy, and also data sovereignty in many cases. So that's leading to some companies moving their workloads back to on-premise, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Data sovereignty is an important topic. There are still banks that we work with who, because you can't take the data out of the country, you have to have a specific solution on a country by country basis as well.
Yeah, so in terms of cybersecurity, definitely a major priority for companies when they're considering any technology solution. But we're also seeing sustainability creep higher on the agenda, and I think it does vary by vertical and by region. But I was just curious whether you're seeing sustainability being a driver for some of the investments that your customers are making in LRS solutions.
Okay, well, there's two things I want to cover. Number one, I come back to the security issue. One of the things we are seeing on the security side is during when companies are going through the buying process, they're spending a lot more time in the POCs and the pilots to check our products from a security perspective. And that again goes across vertical. It's definitely very strong in the banking environment, but it's also strong in the manufacturing space. We had one large customer that recently signed up with us, which is a manufacturer of car components in France with 100 plus I'd say probably, 100 plus employees, offices and sales outlets all over the world. One of their biggest requirements of the POC was, can this product be breached from a cybersecurity perspective? And they did loads of penetration tests for probably 3 months. And they found a few issues, but mostly the issues, there was 2 issues mainly, and it was on-device issues.
Okay, so hardware compromise potential.
Absolutely. Now, coming to your sustainability question, we find the sustainability issues is people always, for years, have been trying to drive down the number of pages they're printing. And we are seeing a reduction in certain verticals. We mentioned earlier, banking and finance. We are seeing more of an issue on the sustainability side on the server consolidation topic. So there's another large car component manufacturer based out of Germany, which had 700 Windows print servers. Okay, so you think about the environmental impact on that. We took that down to 6.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because when we, our recent cloud study that we conducted, we actually saw that a lot of organizations have actually been increasing the number of print servers because of they've actually been introducing more A4 devices or actually creating more of a distributed print environment, which has led to an increase in print servers. And I feel there's still a bit of a lack of awareness in terms of the potential, not only the cost savings in terms of serverless printing or print server reduction, but as you say, also the environmental benefits of moving print servers to the cloud.
That's completely driven by the management at the top. You know, I've seen different types of organization that we sell to. There's a couple of banking organizations in Spain, one that was very aggressive with that from the top. You know, digitization, one of the first pillars of digitization, you need to standardize your solutions. Because if you haven't standardized your solutions and you've got siloed solutions, it's very difficult to pull that all into one digital backbone. But if you've got strong management that mandates that, then that can be done. If you haven't, you will continue with lots of siloed solutions. So you continue with lots of unstandardized solutions and lots of different pockets of information all over the organization. So that comes down to strong management at the top.
And do you feel, just on that point, because, you know, it's kind of that siloed approach versus a best of breed approach that can support all those areas, do you feel that LRS then has that platform where it can support both the enterprise and the office environment through a single platform, also print and capture as well? Because I'm interested to know how you approach that.
Absolutely. So you know, that big car component manufacturer I mentioned in Germany, which has got 300,000 employees globally, they were again they have consolidated all, and they've been doing it. This is the one company that we developed the serverless solution based on the fact that they'd implemented our solution. They were printing in all their offices, their Windows output. They then wanted to go to pull printing. And we were like, well, you're going to have to put servers back in there. Well, no, we can't do that. You're going to have to come up with a serverless pull print solution. So that's why we wrote one. Now, where was I going with this? So remind me what the question was.
Yeah, so in terms of the standardized platform that LRS offers across.
Yeah, so they set up a group specifically to manage output, standardized output, and manage output globally. So as they change managed print service providers, as their managed print service contract comes up for renewal, because they use our standardized solution for all their pull printing and all SAP printing, which, by the way, they manage probably 10,000 plus barcode printers as well. If they then change from, say, HP to Lexmark or Lexmark to Xerox, they still use our standard interface to do that. And they don't have to then go and re-educate the users with a new interface, with a new proprietary pull print solution.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because then there's that consistency in terms of platform, regardless of which hardware devices.
But again, that comes back to education by the management team in those large companies.
Yeah. And so I wanted to pick up on the barcode printers, because you mentioned a couple of times. So could you tell us a bit about how LRS supports and manages barcode printers, and if it's part of a broader MPS engagement model that you take with your clients?
We are starting to see some of the hardware vendors. We have very strong relationship with pretty much all the hardware vendors, and we developed a relationship over the last 25 years. We are seeing some of the hardware vendors pull barcode and label printers into their managed print service offerings. which I think is a really smart thing for them to do because that makes them more sticky in that environment. Barcode printing is really important. And the reason why it's really important, if it doesn't work, then some type of process stops in an organization. And what you tend to see is in organizations that don't use a product like ours, they would have workarounds. So say in a warehouse, if this barcode printer doesn't work, they'll have a spare one sat right next to it. They'll unplug it and they'll stick another barcode printer in there. What they need is some type of bi-directional communication between the application and the printer, which then says, hey, this barcode printer's got a paper jam. So then you can fix that quickly. That's why barcode printing is so important. So in the same way we have integration using, I don't want to get technical here, PJL support, which is a bidirectional communication with a laser printer, we have a bidirectional communication with, say, a Zebra printer or a Sato printer. So if it goes down, we know quickly where the problem is, and then somebody with a central console can say that needs fixing pretty quickly, get it done, because it's stopping these trucks leave the warehouse to deliver the goods to their shops.
Yeah, so it sounds like LRS is really able to capture all these opportunities within these large enterprises in terms of their SAP environments, barcode, and also office print. So do you have a lot of clients that you're supporting in all of those areas?
Absolutely. A lot of them. You could big oil companies, big manufacturing companies, banks. Although in banks you don't get very much barcode printing, but a large proportion of the big manufacturing companies, big healthcare companies, hospitals a lot in the US. We're seeing a lot more Cerner and hospital applications in EMEA as well. So a big number of customers are using our products in those spaces.
Yeah, and I wanted to circle back because at the beginning you mentioned LRS supports any output channel, regardless of whether it's print or digital. And I wanted to understand a bit more about the next strategy for LRS in terms of what it's looking at in terms of new product development. Particularly we've been talking to some other vendors around AI and the opportunities there around OCR and document intelligence. So I was just wondering whether you've got any plans or do you have some capabilities in that space?
Well, number one, we continue to enhance the products we have today. So security is so important. So we have an end-to-end encryption for all our products. So if you're producing output in your back-end application right to deliver the device, we encrypt all of that. And we'll continue to improve that all the time. It's really, really important and key to us. And integration with things like AWS, with Azure, all the different cloud platforms. That's really important. All the different types of authentication platforms and things like that. And that's really important to us. And we will continue as our enterprise customers bring the requirements to us to enhance our products. In the space of digitization, we convert pretty much any data stream to any other data stream. So if you have an application producing some output, we can then create in a format that can be presented in any type of format. So that will continue to develop. On the AI stuff, we've never really been massive innovators on that side, but as we get pushed by our customers, we will do it. On the scan side, we have data loss protection functionalities. So we can, from a auditing perspective, we can basically trace who printed what, wherever they printed. We can also look at if, say, we'll take a copy of everything everybody printed. If somebody then takes that, we can find out who definitely took that document and printed it somewhere. So that's more moving in the AI space. So AI specifically, I think the scan products will take us in that direction, especially from a perspective of our own development. Because if you think about it, in the pool print environment, you've got a lot of new printers coming out all the time. How can we make sure we test those printers as quickly as possibly to meet the requirements of our customers as they roll those devices out?
Yeah, and I think with AI, it's such a broad area. There's so many different applications, from predictive maintenance and support to document intelligence. And I think, it's still early days in terms of how print manufacturers are going to start adopting technology. But I think, what you talked about there, just in terms of content security and data loss prevention, that's definitely an opportunity.
I could also see it moving in the space, because we provide a central console to manage all the digital output in an environment. And with our new mission control product, we're going to be able to do that on a much more centralized perspective for several customers in a multi-tenanted environment. That's the direction the mission control product's going. I can see AI starting to fit in that in terms of predicting and identifying problems that occur so we can fix them as quickly as possible. I can see it going in that space, definitely.
Okay, and just to finish off, it's been really great actually to understand a bit more about LRS in terms of its history and the types of customers you're working with. But we're entering the kind of prediction season for 2024, so I'd be interested if you've got any specific prediction you can share for 2024 for the print industry.
Well, I'll come back to security again. Security is absolutely key because of what's going on in the world. It's a scary world we live in, and the whole cyber attack issue is getting harder and harder and stronger and more. It's more aggressive, and we need to continue to make sure our products are as secure as possible. That's a very, very big priority for us. Print volumes are going to come down. They are going to come down. They are coming down, not as quickly as we thought they might. They're starting to pick back up because people are not working from home so much. I think more people are going to come to offices. I think in the US, I was chatting with our COO, Greg Matthews, and he was saying, in the US, they're definitely starting to see people pushing people to come back to the offices. So I don't think they're going to come down as much. But yes, security is the major issue, and that's the major focus for us.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what we're seeing is this return to the office. Like you say, it's vary by region, but more companies, big tech vendors are starting to enforce.
One other thing, Louella, I'm seeing is it's a new direction we're moving in is the area of managed services. We have a managed service offering now because people are coming to us to say, hey, you have all that expertise in your organization around the world. We haven't got the people to cover this. Can you provide that service? And yes, we can now. Two of the largest companies, I checked this out before I came to the meeting. We haven't got many, but the ones we have got are really big. So two of the largest ones we've got are, I think they're in the top 20 largest companies in the world. One is a petroleum company. The other is a consumer goods company. So we're going to see more and more companies coming to us to want to provide managed services.
Okay, so you're actually offering a managed print service, service to those clients.
Yeah, and it's because of our knowledge in the space. I've been at the company for 30 years. A lot of the people that work for us have been at the company for 10, 20 plus years. So there's an awful lot of expertise in the company.
Yeah, and I think, that's, again, kind of validates what we're seeing in terms of customers wanting deeper IT expertise from their print providers, managed print service providers. And I think there's a real opportunity for companies like LRS to really capitalize on that by delivering new service offerings. So I'll definitely watch this.
We're going to need more people, though. That's the problem. Yeah, that's the difficult piece.
Yeah, the talent. Yeah, I think that's, 2024 is going to be another year of talent shortages and skills. Trying to address that. But,
we need to get more young people into the organisation. One of our other issues, obviously, just before we go, and I keep thinking of things as we go along, is mainframe knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, people say that the mainframe is still important. It's still probably 50% of our revenue, and our revenue is about 150 million a year. So maybe a little bit less, but it's still really, really important. A lot of our mainframe customers are also coming to us to provide them with a path to, okay, we'll get rid of the mainframe. How do we do print in the open systems environment? So that's another big part of our business as well.
Well, that's really interesting because I think, there's always this, again, perception that mainframe and legacy infrastructure is dead, but there's obviously still a lot of big companies still very reliant on that. Just a bit like the print industry, it's very traditional in nature and it's evolving.
Well, I have seen, we've seen a definite acceleration in that. People coming off the mainframe, but it's still a really important part of our business, and it's the bedrock of what we do.
But it sounds like LRS is really well positioned to take them on that digitized journey in terms of when they want to move away and more towards cloud infrastructure and so on. So I'm sure we could sort of talk for a lot longer to understand
yes.
LRS's technology, but it's been really interesting. I really appreciate you taking the time to provide some insights onto, LRS's strategy and what you're doing with some of your big global customers. And we'll put some details of your products in the show notes, and I think it'll be really useful for people to understand exactly what LRS's sort of full solutions portfolio is. So we'll definitely share that. But thanks again for joining me today. It's been really interesting. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. You do a great job, Louella.
So thank you for joining today's episode of In the Spotlight with Quocirca. For more information, please visit quocirca.com and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.